Elise Jesse, and we're coming to you a day earlier because, as you know, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Miami Dolphins are facing off for Thursday Night Football under the primetime lights at Paycor Stadium, and the Cincinnati Bengals looked like they got back on track just in time for a short week. And, the Miami Dolphins, who would have thought that they would have started the season out 3-0, and, oh my gosh, their resume so far, if they would have just beaten teams like the Raiders or the Jets, I don't think that it would mean as much. Instead, they're beating teams like the Patriots and the Ravens and the Bills, and the stat sheet is insane with teams who are going up against the Miami Dolphins. And the Dolphins also gave us the funniest play from the NFL season. I think it's going to stand as the funniest play from 2022, the butt punt. Yes, I don't know if you've seen the viral photo or video that has gone all over social media. If you haven't, you have to look up Miami Dolphins butt punt and then get back to me in the comments, okay? So I think it's hilarious. A lot of other people think so as well. One person who does not think it's hilarious is, of course, Dolphins special teams coach Danny Crossman. He doesn't think it's funny at all. He told USA Today on Tuesday, this is what he said: absolutely zero amusement and a 100% critical mistake that has an opportunity to possibly lose a game. So, Mr. Crossman, peeved about it. Yes, we all understand. This is his livelihood. He wants everything to go smoothly. Maybe he'll laugh about it in 5-10 years from now. Right now, he takes no humor like we do. And a short week for the Cincinnati Bengals. They get their first win on the road. They're back home. They've got just 4 days to prepare. And I have the perfect person to ask about this. Rocky Boiman. He went to St. X. He's a Cincinnati born and bred guy. He's raising his family here in the Cincinnati area. He played in the NFL. I mean, he won a Super Bowl with the Colts, Super Bowl 41. I mean, this guy is now traveling all over the country calling college football. I mean, there's nothing that this man cannot do. So I figured he would be the perfect person to jump in and tell me what he thinks about the Cincinnati Bengals so far, how they'll fare against the Miami Dolphins. We talked about DJ Reader's injury and what just the amount of pressure that puts on the rest of the defensive line. And it was a great conversation. You guys got to hear it. Here you go. Going into week 3 with the Jets, it was not looking good at 0-2. I mean, any NFL team going into a season 0-3 is it's a bleak chance that they will make the playoffs, obviously. It's a 12% chance at 0-2. They do end up looking more like themselves. Obviously, they have some corrections to still make. But they did beat the Jets on a short week. They looked like they were back on track to me. What did you see?
I agree with you, Elise. I think, first of all, it started offensively, finally looked like they were, that high-powered offense we were used to seeing. I think, number one, taking the opening kick, or winning the toss and taking the ball, I thought was good to kind of get them started quickly. The other thing is I just think they finally looked together. They looked like a team that had some experience. And because they didn't play together in the preseason at all, no starters played, a severe detriment. Anybody who knows anything about football knows the offensive line above any other group has got to play with one another and know where the other guy is. Not just knowing, it's feeling that, maybe the guy next to you sets a half step deeper than the guy to your right, that sort of thing. So finally getting that experience. And I also think with Joe Burrow, they got him comfortable early, at least. They got him some quick throws, some bootlegs, naked bootlegs, things like that, get him outside the pocket so he's not kind of confined in that thing. So I think for him, he looks finally like he's kind of sharp and kind of up to speed with the NFL game right now. And now with the offensive line being a little bit better, those two things come together. And I think that's why that offense looked like the offense we were hoping to see.
Well, I was really impressed because, the guys on the offensive line had talked all week about how they needed to earn Joe Burrow's trust. And it certainly seemed like they did that on Sunday. Defense played really well. It seemed like they were finally, closing in on those big splash plays that helped them so much last season. They had 21 takeaways last year. And it just seemed like everything was a little bit more seamless defensively as well.
It really was. Well, the Bengals took advantage of a terrible left side of that Jets line. I mean, that left,
Yes.
I mean, poor number 78. I don't know what his name is, but man, he did not have a good
He didn't
film
have a chance.
on Monday. At least it would not go well for him. But yeah, look, that's what it's about. It's about finding the opponent's weakness and exploiting it. And then the Bengals did that. Trey Hendrickson, of course, did that very well.
Yes.
And I think that is a talented Jets team. Which is good because, it's good to see the Bengals beat up on a talented team. I think that team's a couple years away, certainly with their offensive line. But, yeah, it looks like I think everyone's kind of settled in now. And now the trick, of course, is can the Bengals kind of take that momentum, but also do it all in a very short week and come out and beat probably the hottest team in the NFL right now, and that's the Dolphins.
I mean, the only thing that I was worried about after that game was DJ Reader. And I mean, that injury, there is a very clear reason why the Cincinnati Bengals gave him a 4-year, $53 million contract in 2020. He was the highest paid nose tackle at that point. He might still be. But with him out, it seems like it's going to be so much harder on the defense. A lot of the guys are on the field are going to have to work a lot harder in order to pull off what they did on last Sunday.
Right. Well, there's two folks that are especially sad that DJ Reader is going to be out for a while. Number one are the Bengals defensive ends, Trey Hendrickson, because what a big D tackle does is they have to double team that guy. So that means those guys on the outside are getting, single blocked, right? And Trey Hendrickson one-on-one with a guy, he's showing what he can do. And then also the Bengals linebacking core because, DJ Reader eats blocks. Same thing, a guy that they either have to double or he doesn't allow them to kind of get up to that second level on them. They can run free a little bit. So, no, it's a huge deal. It is a huge deal not having DJ Reader in there, in my opinion. So, just like anything, though, this is a Bengals team last year that was remarkably healthy. So I think everyone kind of knew that we weren't going to get that good fortune again this year. So it's just one of those things that the team will have to kind of overcome.
Well, thankfully, there are some offensive tackles for the Dolphins that don't grade very well, but it seems like Mike McDaniel has schemed well enough to, hide some of those flaws on their offensive line. But with, of course, like you said, DJ Reader out, I mean, he controls the A-gap so well. He constantly beats double teams. But I still think that with their problems on the offensive line, I do still think that Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard will have decent days on Thursday night.
No, 100%. I don't think that it means doom and gloom for the Bengals. It's just going to make it a little bit harder, and that's where Lou Anarumo will probably have to come up with some scheme, right? Some things that maybe get those guys free a little bit. So, but that's life in the NFL. I mean, it's guys get hurt week to week, and you got to find either new people to fill in that spot, and if you can't find the people to do it, you got to find some scheme that's going to help, kind of make sure you don't miss out on something.
Rocky, something that I find so interesting about the NFL is how much parity there is in this league. The Dolphins last week were ranked 7th in the power rankings, and all of a sudden this week they're number 1, 3-0. They beat the Bills for the first time in 8 tries. I mean, it's just wild to me how, a team can be so bad and then just turn around the next year, a new coach, a quarterback, the right quarterback, and the right fit.
Yep.
It changes a team completely. And suddenly they're dangerous. The Dolphins are a dangerous team right now.
Agreed, they are. Now, I think one thing about the NFL is it's very matchup based, right? Because some teams match up better against other teams than they do others. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of a part of it. But for the Dolphins, that coach they got, Mike McDaniel, the day they hired him, that's a head coach in the NFL. He looks like he's about 5'3" and about 125 pounds. But the guy's a genius. I know I know his history. He played at Yale. He's been with Kyle Shanahan for a long time. So the guy is super smart. And by all accounts, I think he's kind of, especially his relationship with Tua. I've read a lot about that this week, that he's kind of more of a positive reinforcement guy than maybe a negative reinforcement guy like Flores was. So kind of constantly keeping that confidence in Tua, and he's come out and played phenomenal. And, now with that said, yes, the Dolphins are 3-0, but you look at a few things and it's like they're not playing that great. Now, look, the record is the only thing that matters. Right?
I feel like I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, but, against the Ravens, they're losing 35-14 before coming back massively in the fourth quarter. Against the Bills, they're outgained 497-212. Bills ran 90 plays in that game to the Dolphins 39. So obviously that can't keep up. That's a total outlier to win, two situations like that. But at the end of the day, I still think, having played in the league, and momentum is a powerful thing. You know what I mean? If you're and more so, I guess, belief when you're coming out there and you're winning these games, you're finding ways to win it. That's really the only thing that matters. So that's why I still think this Dolphins team, despite the fact that, statistically or according to PFF, whatever, they haven't been one of the best teams in the league. But the fact that they're finding ways to win these games and they're riding high on some momentum makes them very dangerous.
And tell me if I'm wrong, but, looking at the stats that you just named off, 90 offensive snaps, 31 first downs, they gave a total of 970 offensive yards to the Ravens and the Bills. And the big comeback against the Ravens, to me, it seems like when you do look at those stats, even though they're not great, it seems like if you let up for 1 second against the Dolphins, you might be dead in the water. Right. Because it seems like they don't have any quit. They also have that bend but don't break kind of defensive quality about them.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, they're again finding ways to win games, and because of that, they're taking a lot of confidence from that. So that if they get down in a game, they're like, we've already been down 35-14 in the fourth quarter. This is nothing, right? You get behind 7 points, 10 points, so they're not going to blink, right? And I think again that's a very, very powerful thing where other teams, the opposite team jumps on them and then it's over, right? So you got to realize that this is a team that's going to keep fighting. And for them, I was looking at their schedule. I mean, they play the Bengals, from their perspective, they win this game. Their next games are the Jets, the Vikes, the Steelers, the Lions, the Browns, the Texans. So, I mean, they're sitting there looking at this like, boys, if we can get this game, we can go on a real roll right now. Yeah. So, I guess we'll see how it all plays out. Playing 90 plays the week before on a short week isn't great. So hopefully that works in the Bengals' favor.
Well, yeah, that's something I wanted to ask you about too. It's as a player traveling on a short week. So you just played Sunday. Now they're traveling likely today, right? They play tomorrow. How does your body adjust to that kind of schedule? Obviously, you know that you're going to have the weekend free. You're going to have the weekend off to be with your friends, family, whatever. But still, your body is recovering from an extreme amount of physicality from just 4 days ago.
Right. No, look, as anyone knows, that's a tough thing to do, mentally as well. You kind of need some time to flush that game out. And also it hurts them because, there's not as much, scheme and things they can put into the game, right, on a short week. But from a body standpoint, it's certainly good that the Bengals are doing this, in the month of September, right? Playing that Thursday game rather than, when I played a Thursday game, it was Thanksgiving. So you're talking late in the season.
Brutal.
And, but at the end of the day, you're going to be hurting. It's a day or a week when you double up on your Toradol shots for the game, and you do what you got to do to get out there, man. That's all you can do.
I have been given Toradol before, and it was after Wonderful. Kid number 2. So that's the only time. But I cannot imagine having to take something like that and then go out and play a football game. I can't imagine. Yeah,
it's a wonderful thing. I'm glad they invented it. That's all I'll say.
Well, okay, so I wrote about this on Monday. Emmanuel Ogbah, 7 quarterback pressures, 4 hits on Josh Allen last week. Melvin Ingram, 5 quarterback pressures, 2 sacks. He had a fumble recovery, playing out of his mind. That scares me a little bit just because we're just now 3 days ago, seeing the Bengals offensive line gel like they need to protect Joe Burrow. But now you have these 2 guys who seem to be a big problem for a lot of teams, which is surprising.
Right. Yeah. Ingram, God, he's been playing about 17, 18 years, hasn't he? The guy's been unbelievable.
He's been in the league forever.
He's been around forever. I was like, God,
he's a unicorn.
He might have been playing when I was playing, which we know is 1,000 years ago. But no, he's a really good player. And I think this is certainly where, the Bengals offensive line played much better last week. But, I keep saying this. I was asked at the beginning of the season, what are you looking for? And it still always comes down to the offensive line, does it not? Until my eyeballs tell me, play in, play out, that this offensive line is really good and is not an issue, that's when I'll believe it. That's when I'll say, okay, we got that set. Until that happens, And it just needs to be consistent. And hopefully they now have the experience and they know, with one another that they've finally been able to get. Hopefully that kind of helps them out here this week.
I hope so. And Rocky, last question for you. What does it do for a team to, on a Thursday night, win their second game of the year, beat 500 at least going into a division game? Because obviously when you're facing the Ravens as the Bengals, the Ravens know them so well. They know what their calls are. They know what their scheme is going to be. It's a little bit tougher, it seems, against division rivals. That's another primetime game on Sunday night. Right. How much better will it be for the team, obviously, to go 2-2 headed into that game with the Ravens?
It's huge because I think a couple of things. You can now say, okay, folks, that 0-2 start was just kind of a blip, and maybe some things we didn't do from a preparation standpoint to get us ready from those games, but we were able to circle the wagons, and we're now playing good. And now you're plus coming off of beating in prime time one of probably the hottest team in the NFL right now. I think it certainly catapults the Bengals right back into that conversation of being a legit playoff team. And yeah, then you get a couple of days off before the Ravens, which, as you said, is a team that very well. They know us very, very well. But I think it's absolutely huge. If this Bengals team can come out and get the victory, I think on Friday and this weekend, I think nationally people will be talking about the Bengals again, which is, what we all want.
Yes, exactly. And Rocky, I mean, fantastic player, great broadcaster, beautiful, wonderful fan. Is there anything that you are not good at?
No, there's a lot. Just ask my wife. There's a lot of things I'm not good at.
I feel like Kelly has a very short list if there's anything.
No, I don't know about that. I'm just trying to keep it on the rails here a little bit, but no, you're doing a great job. I'm happy that you're still staying involved in the business, and I follow you. I try to catch you whenever I can, and keep up the great work. All right.
Thank you. You too. Wait, we got to give the people what they want. You were going to be with SMU and UCF, and now it's Memphis Temple on Saturday, correct?
Yes, it's been a crazy year. My first game of the year at Mississippi State, we had a 2.5-hour lightning delay, so that's been kind of weird. And this week, I was supposed to have SMU at UCF, which is a pretty good American Conference game. Because of the hurricane, Ian, obviously, they had to jostle announcers. So now I am, as of last night, they told me I'm now on Temple at Memphis. So 48 hours of prep and a notebook full of stuff, Elise, is just gone. It's useless. It's absolutely useless.
Off to the side.
So I gotta wrap my brain around the Temple Owls and the Memphis Tigers now. But look, it's all good. It's what you got to be able to react on your feet in this business or any business. So it'll be fun, and we'll get it kicked off here at noon here on Saturday.
You're one of the best. We'll be watching. You simply cannot talk about this game without mentioning Tyreek Hill and Eli Apple. Tyreek Hill was telling the media that he is excited to go after Eli Apple, to go up against him, calling him out essentially. Jesse Bates telling reporters in the locker room this week that he's thinking that maybe Eli Apple didn't come through with some Super Bowl tickets that he had promised via social media to Tyreek Hill, and maybe that's what's spurring this banter back and forth. We don't know yet. I hope to have a definitive answer by the end of the game. I am so excited to watch that matchup. And it just adds a little bit more spice to this game, as if it needed any more. I will be at Paycor Stadium on Thursday night, and if you watch this channel, you already know that James Rapine will certainly be there. He's going to be there early. He's going to bring you, all of the early coverage, everything you want to know heading in. The man just doesn't ever stop working. So he will be there. I will be alongside him, and we will bring you everything that you want or need, or maybe even don't want to know about this matchup on Thursday night, week 4. The Cincinnati Bengals, I would say it's a pretty big game for them. Again, they've got to win it in my eyes, because you know what? Their next game is against the Baltimore Ravens, a divisional foe, a team that knows them and their calls and their schemes and, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase's tendencies pretty well. So they have got to get right, and going into a game with the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday night, 2-2, sounds much better than 1-3. I know you agree with that. I will see you next week on Thursday night at 8 o'clock.